Now, this is, if you're familiar with the show, it's not like breaking news we always bring up. I'm trying to get a download of how you guys have absorbed the last week's news. So we heard all about Bill C-11, and we continue to hear about Bill C-11. And it's like, I'm so tired of talking about it, but we have to talk about it. And right now we're continuing to be at this place where it's just so frustrating because it seems like we can't get a foothold onto the path that is right for this country. And so what happened last week with Bill C-11, if you're not aware of what Bill C-11 is, it's the censorship bill that essentially gives the CRTC powers to regulate content creators. So that's people like me who are just on YouTube having a conversation with you guys, or even the moms that are doing little blogs in their backyard, on how to grow tomatoes. Like, this bill is going to punish those people by giving the CRTC power to determine whether or not that they qualify as Canadian content, or in other words, content that they approve of. So that's what the bill is. And the last time I talked about it, at least, we were talking about how it was sent to the Senate, and the Senate made some amendments, which included telling the House of Commons, basically the Liberals and NDPs, to back off of the little guys, of these independent creators, content creators. Leave them alone is essentially what they were saying. So they sent it was a bunch of amendments, and a lot of them were accepted because that's kind of how things work. It kind of makes things all murky and messy so that we don't really see what's going on. But they rejected the amendment proposed by the Senate that included leaving us alone. So last week, this was the breaking news, and a few of the conservatives, like the leadership, Pierre Poilievre, he was making a video, and I never know. They make these videos, and they're in the Parliament, and they're like huffing and puffing, running down the stairs, and I don't know if that's a performance put on. But anyways, him and Andrew Scheer, I watched their two videos, calling on the people to sign every petition you can to have our voice heard, because the Liberals were pushing and ramming through the bill without debate. And now this isn't illegal. It's not illegal to do what they did, which they ended up doing. They pushed it through and it passed through the House. But it's not democratic, and it paints a bad image for the Liberals. And it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but it's ironic that this is a censorship bill and they're censoring the opposition from having an opinion on it, having a debate on it. So that's where we're standing. So now that it's passed through the House, it goes back to the Senate. And right now, guys, and I'm going to encourage you to do this. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. I have a petition that I want you guys to sign. This was sent to me by my good friend, Mike Mole, who, now I put out petitions before, and Mike's the one that says, "Oh, careful, Brandon, don't give those types of people your information." And my position is just, you know what? They already know who I am. I've been mouthing off on the internet for over a year now. I think my enemies know who I am. So I'm not too worried about that. But if you are worried about that, this was sent to me by Mike, the guy who holds me accountable. So what this will do is when you input your information, it actually tags, I think, every single senator, if I understand this correctly. When I did it yesterday, and it seemed to highlight every senator. You can make a custom message if you want, but they have a template here for you to send. I just use the template and click send. So I invite you guys to do that. I think that's our only hope right now is the Senate, which they seem to go to bat for us. That's what seemed to happen when they made their amendments and sent it back to the House with that one. For me, that one specific amendment about leaving us alone, that was probably the most important part. So I think this is our last line of defense, sadly. They sell this as making big tech pay their fair share. That's how they word it. That's the purpose of Bill C-11. They want to make sure that they're paying their fair share. But I found a thread of tweets from this, I think he's a law professor on Twitter, and I want to read to you his point-by-point demolishing of these claims that are made in regards to Bill C-11. So let me share my screen once again. So let's go on over to Michael Geist. So who is Michael Geist? Let's read about Michael Geist first. Michael Geist is a law professor, CRC in Internet and E-commerce law. So I just really loved what he had to say, so we're just going to read that. So this is his beginning tweet. He says, the actual data that Bill C-11 supporters try to ignore. Record-breaking film and TV production last year in Ontario, with domestic production growing far faster than foreign productions. All right, so this is part 2. Bill C-11 claim number 1. Platforms pay their fair share. The reality is platforms already are amongst the biggest investors in Canadian film TV production. The problem is CanCon rules treat films like Turning Red or Just Kuau, I don't know what that is, as non-Canadian based on ownership. So Bill C-11 claim number 2. Support next generation of Canadian artists. That's what they say, to support next generation of Canadian artists. But the reality is, the bill may hurt new Canadian artists the most. Many are successful digital creators who risk being harmed by CRTC regulation. Even the Senate was convinced of the problem. Bill C-11 claim number 3. Create good jobs for Canadians in the cultural sector. When the reality is, the sector has enjoyed huge success in recent years. The largest entertainment workers union told committee streamers/studios are the largest employer in the sector. Let's keep going here. Bill C-11 claim, lift up Indigenous and diverse voices to tell their stories. I thought this one was funny because the reality is, Indigenous creators left a meeting with Pablo Rodriguez. He's that head dude that I think he was the first one to put forward this bill, Pablo Rodriguez. So Indigenous creators left a meeting with this guy, or with his staff, feeling gaslit and disrespected. Their concerns with Bill C-11 were dismissed. So he's basically saying, no, they don't care about Indigenous people. Claim number 5 from Bill C-11, more options for Canadians to watch. And this one, I don't understand how people don't understand this. Because the reality is, like he says, the bill risks the exact opposite. Higher regulatory costs and CanCon demands means that many niche streaming services from around the world may block Canada. Less consumer choice. And that's, to me, that's what makes it so confusing. And he used the right word there when talking about the Indigenous people. They gaslight you. It's like, it's so obvious that it just makes you think that you're the one that's being crazy, but it's just in your face obvious. So what's the reality? Experts, the Senate, former CRTC chair all agree Bill C-11 still includes the potential to regulate user content. The Senate proposed a fix. Pablo Rodriguez rejected it. Why? Because retaining the power to regulate is the goal. I want to know, because like I said, they're selling this as we're standing up for the Canadian artists. I haven't heard or seen any artists in support of this bill. Have you guys? Maybe it's just because of the algorithms and, my bias, and I don't know, I don't watch too much liberal commentating. But have you guys seen artists, saying, yeah, like, hooray about this bill? Because I haven't seen that. So when they're talking about we're standing up for artists, and one of Trudeau's, I don't know what his role was, but he was going back and forth with Pierre Poilievre, and I think I'll be sharing that video later, but he shares a data point. He says 71% of Canadians agree that this is needed to protect the artist. Like, what? I don't remember being asked this. Like, who are they asking? Like, that's what I want to know.